If you're running your saw and your chain comes off, what do? Well, most people get out their bar wrench. Some people call this a scrench. Out here we call it a bar wrench. They take the bar nuts off, they take the clutch cover off. They do it the hard way. They do it the long way. I'm going to show you a quick, easy way to put your chain back on without any tools. The first thing you do, make sure your chain is on the drive sprocket, while continuing to make sure your chain is still on the drive sprocket. Start putting the chain into the top rail of your bar. Start pushing it over the tip until you can't go any farther. Take your knee, bend the bar, and then continue working it over the tip till it's on. If I was to take the bar nuts off, do it that way, it would take a lot longer. But with this way, it only takes a few seconds and I'm back in business. This is a 32-inch bar. I've done this many times with a 24-inch bar. With a bar shorter than that, a 20-inch bar and under, I don't think you could do this. I don't think you'd be able to bend the bar far enough without damaging it to be able to get this to work. I've done this many times over many years. I've never damaged a bar. I've never damaged a saw. This used to be common practice with loggers. For some, it still is. It was also common practice in the Forest Service, back when the Forest Service was allowed to do things that actually made sense. I made a YouTube short video about this a while back, and my goodness, did the keyboard warriors ever get triggered by that one. But part of that was my fault, just by the way I worded it. So many comments. When I made that video, I had no idea this would be such a controversial topic. So many of them going on and on about how foolish it is to be running a saw without having tools. Who would do such a thing? That was not the point of the video. The point of the video was not about not having tools. The point of the video was, this is the quicker, easier way to put on a chain, and to do it, you don't need any tools. Earlier on in the video, I threw my bar wrench just for the effect. But after I'm done here, I'll be going to try to find wherever it landed, because I like to have my bar wrench with me, or at least close by, when I'm running a saw. Then there were the ones saying things like, I bet I know why your chain came off, insinuating that my chain came off because I have it adjusted too loose. That's not why my chain came off. I took my chain off intentionally so I could demonstrate how to put it back on. My chain, it's just right. And then there were the ones who were telling me I'm going to slice my hands open by doing this without gloves, or even with gloves. Well, I am wearing gloves. I can't imagine what would possess anybody to even try this without wearing gloves, but the way to keep from cutting yourself is to push the chain around in the direction to where you'll be pushing against the back of the cutters, not against the sharp side of the cutters. That's probably what the keyboard warriors would do. They'd probably try to do this by pushing against the sharp side of the cutters. I don't know how many times I was asked how often I've sliced my hand open doing this. 0. I wear gloves. I don't push against the sharp part of the cutters. I don't have any reason to cut my hands doing this. Then there were the ones getting all up on their high horse saying things like, if your chain comes off, it's your fault because you didn't have things adjusted right. Well, maybe. It is true, if you have a loose chain, it is more likely to come off. But especially with these long bars. If you're out working in the thick brush, there's going to be a stick you didn't see that comes along, hits your chain just right, and knocks it off. I don't care how careful you are. In the real world, things happen. It doesn't happen that often. It doesn't happen very often to me, but it does happen. And when it does, I just showed you a quick way to put your chain back on. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, there were the ones who were saying, let your bar cool down first, because if you touch the tip of your bar, even with gloves, it's going to burn your hand. If your bar is getting that hot, that probably means something's wrong. I think a lot of people over-tighten their chains, and with a lot of people, when they're running their saw, it looks and sounds like they're wearing through the wood or burning through the wood more than they are cutting through the wood. I think there are a lot of people who don't know how to file their saw. They don't know how to keep their stops filed down, or some people call them rakers. My bar tips do heat up, but not to the point where I can't touch them. If your tip's getting that hot, you might want to change something you're doing. Then some were saying the only reason this works is because I'm using the light bars, and the light bars are more flexible. I've done this with the traditional solid steel bars for many years. They work just the same. I was actually a little bit afraid to try this when I first got a light bar, afraid that it might not be able to handle it. But I've been doing this for several years now with the light bars, never damaged one. And so many people were saying, don't do this, you'll bend your bar. In order to cut straight, your bar has to be straight. My bar is really straight. Whenever I bend it, it bends right back to straight. But you have to be smart about these things. Don't bend your bar so far that you damage it. If you're not the type of person who can tell when you're bending something too far, don't do this. Do it the other way by taking your bar nuts off. So what's the moral of this story? I think the moral is the keyboard warriors are right. The keyboard warriors should not put their chain back on the way I just showed you. I always welcome comments and I enjoy answering legitimate questions, legitimate concerns, but when people are telling me all the reasons why I shouldn't be doing something that's worked well for me for over 30 years and many others for longer than that, I don't know why I find this so amusing. Well, like I said earlier, a lot of those comments I got were partly my own fault, just because of the way I worded things. I'm just trying to have a little fun with this. Like our good friend Buck and Billy Ray likes to say, be kind to each other, folks. But that doesn't mean we can't have a little fun along the way. Now I have a bar wrench to go look for. See you on the next video. So what's the moral of this story? The keyboard warriors are right. What I just showed you was impossible. You can't put a chain back on a bar by bending the bar. For one, it can't be done. Two, it'll bend your bar all the way around your saw head and you'll have a circular bar, and that just doesn't work very well. Also, your hand is, I shouldn't even be touching this chain. Oh no, I'm gonna cut myself. What do I do? Ugh. I better delete that part. Chainsaws are dangerous. Chainsaws can be sharp. Chainsaws can cut you. If a chainsaw cuts you, it will hurt really bad. If a chainsaw cuts you, you could potentially die. I am not qualified to give safety information about chainsaws. Don't listen to a word I say. Consult your safety manuals, consult your safety experts. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Actually, I don't even think it's qualified for entertainment. You really shouldn't be watching videos like this. Where did that thing go? I was over there, tossed it like that. Where could it have landed? Where could it possibly have gone? Oh, there it is. Oh, always in the last place you look.